Everybody, it's Ryan from Drinks and Dragons. It is Wednesday night. I would normally be in the DM's chair with my group tonight, running an episode of Darkness Over Dragon's Pine. But alas, sometimes life happens and we had to punt for the week, which is perfectly fine. But that got me thinking about what it means or what it takes to find and keep a successful, long-lasting, resilient is probably one of the best words I could think of, gaming group. So I wanted to give 5 observations that I've made over these past few years with this same group on things that have worked well for us. So stay tuned. And since we're back into Drinks and Dragons, tonight we're going to be having our conversation over this fantastic beer from a local brewery here called Dry County Brewing Company. This is their Kennesaw Bourbon Ale. Kennesaw Bourbon Ale, easy for me to say. It's a bourbon barrel ale, 7.5% ABV. It is delicious. We call it KBA for short. So let's crack open a beverage of your choice. That doesn't necessarily have to be beer, wine, or spirits. It can be whatever you choose. This is one of their cups from their Atlanta United Two Spikes special edition beer. But cheers to everyone. Let's talk about successful gaming with a group of friends and how that works and what you can do to make it continue. So I should probably tell you guys how this group that I'm in now came together. Completely by chance. There was a local hobby store called Hobby Town USA, and they had a sign-up sheet for just random people who were interested in playing Dungeons and Dragons. So very old school, literally pen and paper, sign your name up, leave your phone number. And lo and behold, in 2016, there was enough people with enough interest and one guy who was willing to be the DM that suddenly this crazy group formed, and it was huge back then. And so we played there, and then slowly but surely people started to drop away, and then we decided to try a different location, and then more people dropped away, and we ended up with 6, I think, members at the time, which kind of brings me to my first tip for maintaining a long-lasting gaming group. And the first tip is this, and it's maybe not, now I'm gonna give you 5, maybe not necessarily all are equal, but try to figure out as soon as you possibly can what gaming style your friends in the gaming group like. What do I mean by that? Well, there's different types of Dungeons and Dragons role-playing, or I should say game playing. One type, I would say, is the type of player who is much more interested in role-playing and storytelling. That type of player, and you can see that's kind of how our group has evolved. We may go an entire session without having a combat encounter. And that's some of the funnest sessions we've had, where it's a lot of role-playing, interaction with NPCs, investigation, research, problem solving, things like that. And then on the other side, I would say there are those that are much more into, let's call it, rules and action. These are the guys that they want to quickly engage. They want combat, quick engagement, combat. They're looking at the dice. They're looking at they're counting the numbers. It's very, I don't want to say transactional, because there's nothing really wrong with that type of player if that's the type of game you like to play. Well, in our group, we had both. And eventually, it became pretty clear that despite everybody's best intentions, this was going to be a role-playing group. And so the number went from 6 to, or 7 really, I guess, 7, myself included, down to 5. And so we lost 2, and we've had the same 5 since, I think, 2017 now. So we've been a resilient group of 5. Another point I should bring up is just because you are friends with people, or even family, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to enjoy playing D&D with these same friends or family. It really gets down to find people that have the same interest in playing the way that you enjoy the game the most. And that is, look for folks that, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Certainly I enjoy combat as much as the next person, but we are definitely a role-playing group. So when you get that sort of coalescence, try to stick with that. Tip number 2, I would say, is as players, be willing to play in different types of campaigns. We, in our group, I think all of us have DM'd at one point or another. Some have DM'd far more often than others. I mean, I really stepped away when I was in graduate school. I could really only make time to play. A couple of one-shots in some of those quarters or semesters where I was off that I ran, but that's about it. But when I say be willing to play in any type of campaign, I'm talking about Wizards of the Coast adventures. Some of our players love to run those as Dungeon Masters, and that's Bella in the background if you can hear her. Homebrewed one-shots, or for me they usually end up being 2 or 3 shots. And like what I'm playing right now, what I'm running now is a whole homebrew campaign. Let me go see what she's barking at. I'll be back. Bella's barking provides a great intro to my third point. I hope I made the second point okay. Just be open to different types of campaign settings, different types of adventures, homebrewed, pre-written, and just try to find the joy in all of them. But Bella's barking reminded me, one of the other most important tips is, things happen, and be flexible and be compassionate, and life happens, and dogs happen, and especially with COVID, all kinds of craziness happens. People are getting sick, people are stressed, work is stressful, everything's a bit more stressful. So be flexible on the one hand, but also try, this is kind of my fourth tip, try to stick to a schedule. Once a week, twice a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. Okay, so we've got, try to find people who like to game the way you like to play the game, so that you're all enjoying it in the same way. Number 2, don't be afraid to try different campaign settings, different campaign kind of styles of the adventure itself, homebrew versus pre-written adventures. Life happens, be flexible, be compassionate, be understanding. That's all about part of being a good friend as well. Try to stick to a schedule. Try. We try to do once a week, every Wednesday. With COVID, in that day of the week can also shift depending on what other people have going on in their lives. So we just try to work on what's the highest probability of success and stick with that. We've also tried to kind of pare down the amount of time that we're spending, because usually when we're playing in person, we spend at least 4 hours to get kind of the full adventure, but being online, we just connect and can go. So it's about 2 hours, I think, maybe not even 2 hours, what we're spending each week. And then, life happens, like I said, so just stick to the schedule if you can. This week is a case in point. We had 2 folks who couldn't make it, so what do? We just shift to next week, and I have everything planned already for next week. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a refresher, and I'll be ready to go. And then the final tip is probably on the order of kind of magnitude here. Not the most important, but it's, hey, for us, it works. So be flexible with how your players want to engage with the material itself. What does that mean? There are some proud Luddites in our group. They want pencil, they want paper, they want paper player sheets, they want the books, which is perfectly fine. I love that too. We are all children of the 80s, most of us in this group. Well, I take that back. Yeah, 3 of us are, and then 2 are younger, 1 is much younger. But for those of us who grew up with Dungeons and Dragons in the 70s and 80s, paper just feels like home. But the technology has gotten really good with what you can do. And so some people are 100% paper pencil still, others are 100%, electronic device or laptop. Some like me are hybrids. Some things are just so easy with the online material to quickly access that it's hard not to use that stuff, even if you wanted to go paper only. But making player characters now, there's so many great online tools that just, they do the updates so quickly. You're not spending an hour, making changes in your player sheet. Once you level up, you can do it literally in minutes, sometimes seconds, because the system kind of flows through all the updates for you, which is cool. But there's some nostalgia in using an eraser and a pencil and making manual updates. And I love the books, as you can see behind me there. You can go to those as well. So folks, those are my 5 tips for lasting success with your gaming group. The group that I'm in now has been unchanged, really, since early 2017. So I think we've got a good run going here, and we've played many different campaigns. We've had everyone has been a dungeon master in all of these campaigns. We communicate often with each other. We use electronic mechanisms. These are sort of outside of the top 5 tips, but other useful items. We've used GroupMe. We're now using the Line app, Line, to communicate, but group message works fine. Emails work fine. Let people know as early as you can when you can't make it. Be respectful of your dungeon master's time and players. It's a two-way street. The dungeon master needs to understand that the players are committed as well to their characters. And so once you kind of get that mutual respect, I think that's huge. So no Darkness of Dragon's Pine this week, but this time next week, hopefully, well, maybe not this time. Usually I upload it on Thursday. There will be a new session for you all to enjoy. And until then, this is Ryan from Drinks and Dragons. Cheers. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, hey, I know I took a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad you're back with me. If you like this content, please subscribe. I think the button's over here. I've got some other cool videos. I'm just gonna let YouTube serve up what's next over here, but stick with the channel. Thanks for sticking with me. I look forward to your comments, and we'll see you next time.